Hey, what's up guys? My name is Jedith. I know the past few weeks have been a lot of Devourer videos, but we are lucky enough to have some HAVOC changes on the beta this week. There are changes to the spec and also changes to both hero talent trees. So these are actually really good changes, and I think you guys will be happy to see them. And it's looking good for HAVOC going into midnight. Like I said, I know I've covered a lot of Devourer. It's kind of been the talk of the town lately, but we can't forget about HAVOC. HAVOC is still going strong and it's looking to be better than ever in midnight. And after these changes, it's hard for me to say that I won't still be playing it. I absolutely will. So let's take a look at these changes together and I'll give you my thoughts as we go along and explain what these all mean. So the first major change that I want to show you is to the talent A Fire Inside. So previously A Fire Inside would give you an additional charge of ammo, which it still does, but it would have a 30% chance to give you another charge of Immolation Aura. And this was really hard to play around. It was fun at times, but it was also really annoying sometimes because you would just get refresh after refresh after refresh, and you'd be standing there spamming Immolation Aura instead of actually playing your character and doing other things, pressing abilities that are more fun to press. So with this, they've changed it now to be a little bit more consistent and predictable. So now instead of having the 30% chance to refresh a charge, each charge of Immolation Aura has a 6-second reduced cooldown. And Immolation Aura is affected by haste. As you can see in the tooltip here, it is a 20-second recharge right now with 17% haste, and that is with the talent. But if I beam and get some extra haste from up to 63%, that goes down to a 15-second recharge. So what this means is we'll have a similar amount of Immolation Auras over the course of a fight, but it's more predictable, it's more consistent, and we're not going to be standing there spamming our Immolation Aura button over and over and over. This does mean that we lose the chance to really high roll it and get 5 Immolation Auras going at once, which all have their own rage fires, and on shorter pulls in Mythic Plus, all of those rage fires exploding at the same time and killing the mobs can look really fun on the meters, but we always want to go for more consistency and reliability over pure RNG. It's not fun when you get the opposite end of the RNG spectrum and you low roll, you just have no way of counteracting it and doing anything differently. But with this, it's just more consistent, more reliable, and it's still going to be fun because of another talent that we'll be looking at a little bit later in the Felsguard tree. But first, before we hop over to Felsguard, let's take a look at Eldrazi Reaver. So we'll look at Broken Spirit first. This was updated to have Blade Dance attached to it, as well as Chaos Strike. Previously, this talent would give Chaos Strike a 20% chance to shatter a soul fragment. Well, now Blade Dance has been added on top of this, so Blade Dance and Chaos Strike both have a 20% chance to shatter a soul fragment. And this works synergistically with our Apex talents because every time we fully channel an I-Beam, the next Blade Dance that we use refreshes its own cooldown. So we're getting double Blade Dances back to back. And of course, each of those Blade Dance casts have a 20% chance to shatter a soul fragment. This is super important with Eldrazi Reaver now because we no longer have Sigil of Flame and Sigil of Misery for on-demand soul fragment generation. Those two together would give us 5 soul fragments whenever we could use them, but now we no longer have the sigils, so we're more reliant on the soul fragments that are proccing through other means. Truthfully, on my end, it felt okay before Blade Dance was added to this. I felt we were still generating enough soul fragments passively that it didn't feel bad, but now that we have Blade Dance added to this as well, I think it's going to feel really good. There's going to be a lot of soul fragments coming in and a lot of Reaver's Glaives going out. But while we're looking at Eldrazi Reaver, let's take a look at Thrill of the Fight. This was also redesigned. So after consuming both enhancements, gain Thrill of the Fight, increasing the damage of your next Reaver's Glaive by 30% and increasing haste by 6% for 30 seconds. So Thrill of the Fight previously and on live right now would give you 2 separate buffs. You'd get one that increased your attack speed, and you'd also get one that gave you a damage increase buff. And it was problematic because one, we only really cared about the one buff, the one that was giving increased damage. And of course, just like everything else that HAVOC has dealt with over the past few years, it was another small damage window that you had to stack on top of other small damage windows, and it became a headache. So with this expansion, the devs have made a conscious effort to roll back on those damage windows. For example, Essence Break no longer gives you a damage amp on Chaos Strike and Blade Dance. It's now just a flat damage proc, meaning you don't really have to worry about lining it up with other things. The same can be said for Thrill of the Fight now. Thrill of the Fight was kind of monumental in the way that AR was doing damage over the past few seasons because we were lining up the damage amp of Thrill of the Fight to lead into the next Reaver's Glaive and buff that damage, which also fed into our Wounded Quarry. Now, luckily, the way that they've done it here is it's still increasing the damage of our next Reaver's Glaive by 30%, so we haven't lost that interaction. It's just not buffing all the other extraneous things, and it's just the damage of our next Reaver's Glaive, and we have 30 seconds to fulfill that. Now, another couple things with AR before we move on to Felsguard is that Fury of the Eldraki had its damage reduced by 18%, and it now deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. This is totally fine. 18% I think is a pretty reasonable number, and reduced damage beyond 8 targets really only applies to those niche situations in Mythic Plus when you're pulling 4 or 5 packs together and getting uncapped AoE, which leads into a lot of funnel damage onto your main target. We can still do that, but it is just reduced damage beyond 8 targets. You're still going to be hitting all those extra targets with your Fury of the Eldraki. It just starts to reduce the damage when you go past 8, and an 18% reduction on that is pretty minimal. Now, what I really think they're trying to achieve by reducing the numbers in this way is that they're trying to make AR less of a lock-in hero talent and giving more credence to maybe potentially playing Felsguard, which is what we're going to look at next. Now, Felsguard got a lot of really good changes, and these honestly excite me because this means we're probably going to be playing Felsguard a lot more in Midnight than we did in the War Within. Don't get me wrong, we did have some moments where we played Felsguard in Raid, maybe a few times in Mythic Plus, but let's not kid ourselves. We played AR for the majority of the expansion. Well, they've made some pretty big and impactful changes to Felsguard that I think might change that going forward. So first and foremost, Demon Surge is now affected by our Mastery again because it is chaos damage. It was changed to be fire damage a couple patches ago, and it was personally, I think, a really bad idea. And it seems that they agree with that because it is now back to being chaos damage, and it is affected by our Mastery. So our Mastery, we typically have a lot of it, and it increases our chaos damage. I have 47% right now, so it's increasing all of our chaos damage by 47%. So as we gear up, as we get more mastery, as we use trinkets that give us mastery or weapon enchants, all of these things are feeding into increasing the damage of Demon Surge. So TLDR, Demon Surge is just going to do a lot more damage than it did previously. And because of that, they did have to roll back the damage of Demon Surge by 15%, which is okay. Again, a pretty reasonable nerf, and I think we're still at a net positive with the mastery increase. The other change they made is to demonic intensity. So Demon Surge damage is increased by 5%. It used to be 10% for each time it previously triggered while your demon form is active. So they nerfed this by about half, but there's a good reason. And this reason is huge. Now, Demon Surge, how did they word it here? Demon Surge now always empowers Blade Dance and Chaos Strike when entering demon form. So what this means is if you've pressed meta and you press I-Beam while you're still in meta, you are now granted 2 Demon Surges on your Annihilation and your Death Sweep, which you were not previously. Previously, it had some anti-synergy with talents like Cycle of Hatred or Shattered Destiny that were keeping you in demon form longer, but this talent was incentivizing you to leave demon form and re-enter it to get those demon surges. Well, now we don't have to worry about doing that. We can stay in demon form as long as we want, and every new I-Beam to keep our demon form rolling is now granting us those demon surges on Annihilation and Death Sweep. Let's do an I-Beam. We get these 2 demon surges. Okay, now I'm gonna meta. Now we have these demon surges to spend. We're gonna spend Annihilation, Death Sweep, Annihilation Aura, then we're gonna I-Beam again, and we get 2 more demon surges. And now, as we just do our rotation and wait for our I-Beam to come back around, you'll see that when I cast I-Beam, it is going to keep me in demon form, but I'm also going to be getting those 2 demon surges from Annihilation and Death Sweep. So here we go. I-Beam is coming up off cooldown. I'm going to send it. And there we go. I get those 2 demon surges again. So again, to reiterate why this is good, this now has synergy with Cycle of Hatred and Shattered Destiny, or anything that keeps us in demon form, whereas previously it had anti-synergy with these 2 talents, and we wouldn't want to take them because we would want to actually drop out of meta and get back in, because that was the only way we could get those demon surges. Now we can stay in meta as long as we can, and we're still getting demon surges. Now, another super exciting thing for Felsguard, especially for single target, is the addition to Burning Blades. So Burning Blades has been Felsguard's sort of single target, what could you call it? Accumulator? It's not quite a funnel, but it's an accumulator. So it takes a portion of your ability's damage that you're using on a target, replicates it to do fire damage over 6 seconds. We'll just read the tooltip. Your blades burn with fell energy, causing the damage from Chaos Strike, Throw Glaive, Blade Dance's First Blood, and auto attacks to burn for an additional 30% damage as fire over 6 seconds. So the addition here is Blade Dance's First Blood. And this is super impactful because First Blood, we're always taking it. You're never not going to take First Blood. You have to take it. First Blood makes your Blade Dance deal a lot of extra chaos damage to the first target struck. And in a single target, that's just always your main target, your only target. It does a ton of chaos damage, and that's now going to be feeding into Burning Blades, which again is very, very good for us because we get those double Blade Dance or Death Sweeps with our Apex talents. Fellscard is actually going to slam single target damage. It's gonna be nuts. And the great thing is Fellscard is set up to be AoE as well, because we have a lot of talents that encourage mass AoE as well with our Immolation Auras and I-Beams. By the way, I was talking earlier about a talent that Fellscard has that goes well with the new Fire Inside, and that's this talent here, Undying Embers. Immolation Aura has a 25% chance to reignite after it expires, reapplying its effect. So as you're using your Immolation Aura charges, they show up on your character. You can see them right up here. You can see we have 2 rolling. Now, as these expire, each one has a 25% chance to just reapply again. We'll see if either of these work. Yep, one of them worked right there. So we got a third Immolation Aura. And of course, that third one also gets its own Rage Fire. So it's almost like we took the amount of Immolation Auras we had previously with the 30% chance to get a new charge with a Fire Inside, and we've shifted it to Undying Embers, but we're not actually having to waste a GCD or a button press to get those buffs, because they're happening automatically. They're refreshing automatically at the end of these Immolation Auras that are expiring. They have a 25% chance to reignite. Now, again, you do get a little less overlap, but ultimately it's a little bit more reliable and a little bit more consistent. Now, the one thing that I did save for the end, because I know some people are going to be upset about this, is that Netherwalk has just straight up been deleted. We no longer have this choice node where we had Desperate Instincts and Netherwalk. I guess they just thought it was too powerful. So we no longer have Netherwalk. We don't have our immune anymore, which is unfortunate. You know, we had a 2.5 second immune attached to Blur. We have 2 charges of Blur now. So getting a 2.5 second immune, 2 charges on a 1 minute recharge was insanely powerful. So they got rid of that. But to be honest, guys, Desperate Instincts on its own is very, very powerful. Blur now reduces damage you take by an additional 10%. So that brings it to 35% reduction. So just a flat 35% damage reduction. And then additionally, damage taken below 35% health on your character is also reduced by an extra 10%. So this is very powerful. It does suck to see Netherwalk go. Maybe we'll hear more about that in a blue post or in a future build. Maybe it'll come back. Kind of strange. That seems like one of the things they would provide a developer's insight type of thing with. But unfortunately, in the blue post today, it was just a singular line that said, what did it say? Netherwalk has been removed. It is what it is. Anyway, like I said, I am still super excited for HAVOC. I think it's going to feel a lot better to play in Midnight. I'm excited to do some keys with it, do some raids, but we haven't forgotten about Devour. I'm still going to be putting out a lot of Devour content, and there's actually a really cool Devour video that I'm going to be putting out into the public soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not, maybe the next day, maybe next week. But you'll see it, and I'll let you know where you can see it because it may not be on this channel. I've already said too much. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and if you want to be part of the community where you can get cheat sheets for HAVOC and Devour, learn how to play it, learn the opener, the rotation, all the good stuff, and kind of just chat with people and learn the ins and outs of your class. If you want to master your spec, my Discord is the best place for you to start. Link will be down in the description. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.